Yeti scalp we have here, for which we can't give an explanation, I think does indicate that possibly a Yeti may have existed, perhaps in the past, we don't know, and that's what we're trying to find out.
I had the privilege to examine the very same Yeti scalp that Hillary made famous.
Look at that. That is incredible. You can see this actually is a slit. This is where it must have been actually scalped. You really get a sense of the colors with it out of the case. You know, these really, really red hair fibers here.
The monks allowed me to take a single solitary hair for DNA testing.
And we have a sample.
While the sample was at the lab, I was able to confirm with the help of expert mammologist Jim Dines, this is from some type of mammal.
They look like fibers, but those are actually mammal hairs.
In terms of coloration,
This is consistent with some primates, orangutans, for example.
Unfortunately, the DNA results come back revealing that the hair is covered by a preservative. The DNA testing is inconclusive. When it comes to quests for the Yeti, it's hard to follow in the footsteps of such greats as Mesner and Hillary. But hey, fortune favors the bold. In 2016, I embarked on my own extensive journey across the Himalayas for evidence of the elusive Yeti. And what we found was truly extraordinary. I discovered hair, bones, scat.
mystery poop, check.
All of them turned out to be goats, human, or some other non-Yeti animal. Eventually, I hit pay dirt with an incredible find.
See this?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Exploring an extremely remote area of Bhutan
Long way down.
that has had Yeti sightings. I traveled over land and river with world-class kayaker and outdoorsman Jerry Moffat.
Hey, I got a den over here.
On my way.
We found what looked like a den for some creature. Later, something triggered our motion detectors, leaving a set of 3 footprints.
And here, look. That's a print. That is a print, and that's a print right there. 3 of them. Look at that. Toe marks.
This has made a significant indentation in that soil there.
That one is a beauty. Look at that. That one is clear as day.
Where do you think that is? It's a big animal.
I don't know. I mean, this looks like a bipedal animal. That looks like a human print almost.
With casting powder and with the handy use of my belt, we made an incredibly detailed cast of one print.
Now we wait.
At a glance, the print seemed oddly like a very large human.
Feeling pretty good?
Yeah, feeling great.
There we go. Awesome.
We wanted to know, could this be from a Yeti?
Awesome work, Jerry.
Great
Really.
job.
To get a more complete answer, we consulted Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, one of the foremost experts on zoological footprints. He used a 3D scan to reveal more detail of our prints than human eyes can see.
Foremost in my mind is the question of, did you get a footprint of a Yeti? The combination of characteristics that sort of speak to me, all those features would indicate in my mind the likelihood of this being a bear. But in Bhutan, we should only expect either an Asiatic black bear or a sloth bear.
And does this fit either of those?
No, it doesn't. That leaves us with a brown bear. And all reports are that it's now extinct in Bhutan.
So, either I found a footprint of a brown bear that is not extinct in this area, as scientists have believed, or it's a footprint of something else entirely. The mystery continues. Is what people call the Yeti an undiscovered primate, a giant bear, or something else entirely? Now, a new breakthrough with DNA evidence may finally provide an answer. Thanks to a team of geneticists at the University at Buffalo, we may have finally pinpointed the true identity of this menacing monster. Evolutionary biologist Charlotte Lindquist is an expert on studying ancient DNA and was a key member on the team.
So this study represented the most samples and the most data that had ever been analyzed of Yeti origin. We had a total of 24 samples, which included a tooth. There was a dried hand from a monastery, so we got the skin. There was also a femur bone, and then there was hair sample and also a scat sample that actually, I believe, Reinhold Messner himself had collected.
The university's study clearly showed that all of the samples they analyzed that had been suggested to be Yeti weren't from an abominable snowman after all.
So we had a tooth that turned out to actually be from a dog, but the ones that had been collected in the western Himalayan mountains, they were Himalayan brown bear. The ones that were collected close to the Tibetan plateau, they were Tibetan brown bear. And we also had an example of a Himalayan black bear.
Unfortunately, there hasn't been any hard evidence to prove the existence of the Yeti. However, the good news is that we've proven that the brown bear is not extinct in Bhutan. But still, the encounters of so many experienced adventurers can't be completely dismissed.
I suppose there are aspects of bears that if you see them up on their hind legs, they stand large. Certainly, I can imagine it can really generate a deep fear that perhaps can start these stories. I think we can think of the legend of the Yeti as maybe a sum of a number of different things. If you imagine that we are in an area that is, surrounded by some of the highest mountain peaks in the world, it's very rugged, it's very isolated. There is a population of bears that is representing the largest animal in the region, and they are very few. Imagine that villagers, maybe every 10 years, see an animal. It can be maybe at dusk, it can maybe be dark. Maybe they took one of their livestock. They start talking. You can imagine that the imagination can run wild. Large animal as it stands on its legs, over 7 feet tall, quite large, furry. So you can imagine the imagination can easily take hold, telling stories. It goes on generation to generation. That's maybe how legends are born, right? How mysteries and myths can just keep alive on its own. But if the DNA we get from the sample show us it's a bear, I mean, then it's a bear. There's no way to get around it. I mean, it just doesn't lie.
This DNA evidence is what we've been waiting for, yet questions remain, such as that gnarly scalp that Hillary acquired that looked distinctly primate. So, for those of you planning to venture into the Himalayas someday, stay frosty. While many ice-cold cases of this mysterious monster appear solved, folklore runs deep, and there's always a possibility that the mysterious Yeti could still be out there. I'm still up high, but I'm no longer in the Himalayas. I'm on one of the tallest rooftops in the city of Chicago. It's November 22nd, 1987. I'm here because a daring group of hackers is about to break into a live television broadcast, inciting pure chaos and sparking the biggest media mystery of all time. How big is this hack? Nearly 40 years later, the FBI still considers the perpetrators the most wanted video pirates in the country. But new evidence may now reveal who these hackers are and the motive behind their attacks, which changed TV broadcasting forever. At 9:14 p.m., WGN Channel 9 anchor Dan Rowan is giving his Sunday sports report about the Chicago Bears' 30-10 win over the Detroit Lions, when something interrupts the video feed on the screen.
What's going on? What's happening?
Someone wearing a Max Headroom mask has hacked into WGN's live newscast. It's 1987, and Max Headroom is one of the most popular programs on TV. Set in the future, Max is a computer-enhanced media icon fighting corrupt television executives who are trying to control the masses through their TVs. WGN technicians race through the studio, searching for the rogue engineer who flipped the switch, allowing a Max Headroom wannabe to crash their sports report. But they find no one. Thousands of angry fans call WGN, complaining about the weird Max Headroom messing with their TV screens. Officials tell viewers the problem's been fixed. But what Chicago doesn't know is Max is just getting started.
Well, if you're wondering what happened, so am I.
Just like WGN Channel 9, rival TV station WTTW Channel 11 broadcasts their signal from one of the tallest buildings in Chicago. At 11:15 p.m., the network is airing reruns of the 1977 Doctor Who series Horror of Fang Rock, when Headroom strikes again. And this time, viewers hear Max's twisted voice.
What's the way? I guess they're giant bastard things for all of the greatest world newspaper news.
Max speaks in a voice that sounds like gibberish, then goes on to do some things, well, we can't show you on TV. Chicago viewers are outraged. The FBI is called in to investigate. They want to know, is this just a stunt or a dangerous threat to national security? Remember, it's the late 80s, and the Cold War continues to rage on. The US and Soviet Union are locked in a deadly game of disinformation. Intelligence agencies fear the Soviets are trying to hack into US broadcasts. So they launch a manhunt to figure out who did it, why did they do it, and how. Even though this crime has thousands of witnesses, the FBI can't find any suspects. So investigators circle back to the most important piece of evidence they have, the video itself. And when agents focus on what Max says, they unlock critical clues about who's behind the hack. Investigative journalist Michael Whelan has spent years analyzing the FBI's investigation into the case.
You know, the FBI, when they're doing their investigation, they're going through every bit of footage with a fine-tooth comb. And during the hack, this figure says, "I think I'm better than Chuck Swirsky." Chuck Swirsky is a current employee of WGN. He was a broadcaster for the Chicago Bulls. You know, he was a well-known figure. And in the late 1980s, he was a Chicago area legend. So it seems like this Max Headroom figure is almost breaking the fourth wall. He's saying, I, a fictional broadcaster, am better than this real-life broadcaster.
Analyzing other comments from Max, they decipher more of his cryptic phrases.
I guess they're giant bastard things for all of the greatest world newspaper news.
So in the footage, the character makes reference to the greatest world's newspaper nerds. The FBI looks into that and they realize that there's another connection to WGN. Because in the 1940s, the Chicago Tribune launched their own TV station. And, you know, calling themselves the world's greatest newspaper, they called it WGN. So the FBI, during their investigation, they begin looking for anyone who might have had a motive to lash out against WGN in particular. What they find is that throughout 1987, WGN had been laying off employees. Clearly, some of them might have had an axe to grind.
But this doesn't add up. Max hacked into two channels that night, WGN and WTTW. Why would Max talk all that trash about WGN Channel 9 while broadcasting on their rival network, WTTW Channel 11?
They tried to hack into it. It lasted about 10-15 seconds. Basically, the engineers figure out what's going on, switch to a different signal, cut them off. When that failed, these hackers figure, we spent all that time putting together this irreverent video targeting WGN. Let's just do it again. So 2 hours later, they pivoted and went after WTTW. But whoever this was, they had a bone to pick with WGN.
Realizing Max's beef is with WGN, FBI agents interview dozens of current and former employees of the network. But the Bureau can't find any suspects from WGN. By 1988, the case of the most audacious hack in US television history hits a wall of static, and it remains that way for decades. But now, after combining the FBI's evidence with research from dozens of amateur sleuths obsessed with the case, Michael believes he knows just what happened that fateful night.
Today, when we think about hacking, we think of someone in a dark room trying to steal your money, hack into your bank account. Back in the 1980s, the internet was still in its relative infancy. So hacking like this would have required physical hacking. Not in the sense of splicing into a mainframe and feeding something into a wire or something like that. This would have required someone to get in between the broadcast signal and the transmitter. That requires some technical expertise.
Even more alarming, back in 1987, television signals are broadcast on radio frequencies closely guarded by the US government. To pull this off, these hackers had to have inside knowledge of how the broadcast system worked.
When you're thinking of hacking, you're looking for exploits. You're looking for something to poke a hole in and kind of ram through. This would have been a TV station broadcasting a signal up to a giant transmitter on top of a really tall building. And this person basically got in between them. They found probably a rooftop, they had a transmitter of their own, and basically just overpowered the feed. This could have been done with secondhand equipment, stuff they found on the black market. So if you think about it, it's signal, transmitter, hacker, right here, right in the middle. They got in the middle of it and took it over. That was the ball game.
Okay, I get it. The hacker has to be sending up a signal that's more powerful than the intended broadcasting signal. Then the hacker's content will be what's transmitted. So with this expertise and gear in hand, this is probably how the actual hack went down. Using a portable camcorder, the team shoots their Max Headroom video at their DIY studio. Then, the hackers find a rooftop location, giving them a line of sight to the skyscraper's massive antennas. Using a portable microwave transmitter with enough energy to overpower the TV station's signal, the pirates beam their video to the antennas, which broadcasts Max across the entire city of Chicago.
I think I found Chuck's worst name.
So we have finally solved the riddle that eluded investigators for almost 40 years. We know how Max Headroom invaded the Chicago airwaves. But of course, a much bigger riddle remains. Who was behind the mask? And why did they do it?
I think they were trying to make a point. It was a point that modern society was becoming beholden to kind of corporate ad-driven interest.
In the 1980s, laws were changed to make intrusions like this a felony due to concerns about terrorism. And since 2009, American TV stations switched from analog to digital signals, making it virtually impossible to commit a hack of this type again. So, not all monsters get to be unmasked. It seems the greatest hackers in TV history remain a million-dollar mystery, at least for now. But before we disappear off air ourselves, I do have one last idea to try to solve this case. If you masterminds want to reveal yourselves, well, you know where to find my show. Just hack me. I'm Josh Gates. Until next time, travel adventurously.